It was the year 2019, the time when we were college kids, and the winter season was at its peak. Our college was closed for a week due to immense snowfall in that area, but I didn't want to spend all this time alone at home. So, I called my friends to plan a camping trip to the woods south of our town. The day finally arrived, and we started to pack our clothes and gear for the trip. Ashley and I went to Robert's place together. Matt and Amanda joined us along the way. All of us arrived at Robert's place at night. He had a large house outside of our town, and it was the perfect place to get together. Robert's brother drove us in the cold weather into the woods where we planned to camp and told us to be careful and call him in case of any inconvenience. We unloaded the bags from the car and began to carry them for the rest of the way. Everything seemed enjoyable during that time, but we were unaware of the danger that awaited us ahead in the forest. During our hike, we saw a caution sign in front of an extremely huge tree. Robert was suspicious about it and even warned us all not to wander near this area and to keep moving till we reached the camping site. After 2 hours of hiking, we finally reached the camping site. We unloaded the camping equipment to set up the site. Meanwhile, Robert and Matt went to gather some wood to start a fire. Ashley and Amanda helped me set the tents up. Ashley seemed concerned that this might not be a good idea to just camp alone here on the track that is filled with cautious signs everywhere. But Amanda told her not to worry, as we are all together. The darkness of night had almost covered the camping site, and we could barely see sunlight. Ashley, Amanda, and I were almost done with setting up the site when we heard a strange crackling and hissing noise behind the trees. We all were left scared, and we slowly walked towards the woods from where the noise came from. Suddenly, Ashley screamed. Matt and Robert came from behind, dropping the woods on the ground, and Robert held Ashley as she was about to fall. All of us asked her what did she see. She didn't respond at first. Then after catching her breath, she started speaking and said, "Red, bright, and shiny eyes. They were looking right at me. They were calling me towards it." Robert told us not to worry about it as it might be from the traveling, and we were just tired. We created a campfire in the center of the camping site and sat around it. We cooked a quick meal there and ate dinner while talking to each other about the stories we all wanted to share. Suddenly, we heard distant howling, and it didn't come from one side. It came from several sides and left us all spooked. Ashley seemed concerned throughout the time and told us to throw leftovers of everything we ate far away from the camp as it might attract animals. Matt didn't care much and suggested that we should get some sleep as we needed lots of energy for the next day. Instead of throwing the leftovers of food, he took his portion of the meal in his tent and said, "I will eat it after some time." It started to get late, so we all went to our tents. I was sleeping in my tent when Robert shook me to wake me up and said, "Joey, come out." I asked, "What happened?" He could barely speak. In a shivering voice, he said, "Matt is not in the camp. He is not nearby, and I haven't heard of him for a long time now." Well, it was something to worry about. We both waited beside the campfire for some time. It was a cold and dark night. Snow had covered the track and the sight from above and had blurred our visions. Robert said that we should light up the woods from the campfire coals and go out to see if Matt was nearby. As we were about to leave, we thought that leaving Amanda and Ashley alone might not be a good idea, so we went to wake them up and take them with us as well. I got outside Ashley's tent, and I was about to call her name when she came out herself and told me that she'd been awake this whole time and had heard those hissing and cracking sounds again near our camps. She said that she even heard Matt screaming, but when she got out, no one was outside and thought Matt might be joking or something. Now we knew that something must have happened to Matt. All four of us went on foot. Robert and I were struggling to clear the path, and Ashley and Amanda were following us. Out of nowhere, we heard the hissing sound again. Robert signaled us to stop. He slowly approached the noise. Ashley and I were just behind him, and we could see the wooden torch in his hand faded in the heavy snow and finally disappearing behind the tree with a loud, crushing sound. Ashley, Amanda, and I were still standing there shaking. We yelled, "Robert! Where are you? Can you hear us?" He didn't respond. Now, Matt and Robert were gone, and we had only one torch left. We kept walking to find Matt and Robert. calling out their names loud, but did not get any response for a very long time. Then we reached the same abandoned area with a caution sign. Ashley found Matt's shoe just beside that caution sign that we saw in the morning. All three of us looked at each other with an expression of fear dripping off our faces. Gathering all the courage we had left, we passed the sign and went deeper into the forest. We saw a hidden cave beneath loads of branches and leaves. We went inside the cave. Ashley heard Matt whispering somewhere in the cave, but we could barely see anything. Finally, I caught sight of Matt. He was standing in front of the wall of the cave, with his head continuously tapping on the large rock. He was continuously muttering something that we couldn't understand. He had a heavily wicked and devilish voice at that time. When I caught sight of him, I was terrified. I shouted in a trembling voice, "Matt, it's not safe down here. Let's go." He didn't respond. Gathering all the courage, I slowly approached Matt and told Ashley and Amanda to stay where they were. Matt swiftly turned towards me, and what I saw sent chills down my back. I will never forget that look on his face. His face was covered with blood, and there was no expression on his face, as if he was already dead. Blood stained his clothes, and the skin between his blood had already gone pale. His eyes, which used to be joyous and lively, were dulled by pain and exhaustion. I rushed to his side to get a hold of him. My hands were trembling as I took in the extent of his injuries. The cuts and bruises were deep. His clothes were torn, and his limbs had bite marks. I said, "Hey, it's me, Matt." Ashley and Amanda started shouting once they saw Matt covered with blood. Matt's lips moved, but he was in so much pain that I couldn't make out what he was trying to say. I asked him how he ended up here and what had caused these injuries. His throat was bleeding badly. He said, "I don't know if it was an animal or something else, but it's still here." I could hear the echo of angry growls inside that cave. Matt said with a trembling voice, "I heard a whisper outside my tent and went out to see. There was a shadow behind the trees, and I just followed it. After that, he got hyper and kept on pushing me away and said, 'Run, get some help.' He pushed me again and fell to the ground. He didn't want us to stay in that cave. I started to experience this unusual and bizarre feeling. I told the group that we have to leave the cave to find Robert now and get Matt some help. Fog smeared all over the forest, which made it very hard to see. We were walking for 20 minutes, and out of nowhere, a random dog just appeared and started barking at us. Amanda got close to him, but he ran away. It was as if he was trying to warn us of the danger that we were leading ourselves into. We couldn't find Robert, but we saw a light coming from very far away. We were arguing if we should go there or not when we heard a scream. It was the most disturbing thing I'd ever heard. The scream sounded not too far away. All of us jumped and looked at each other. Ashley and Amanda were freaked out. I could see it in their eyes. Amanda said, "What the hell was that?" I responded that we should go and check it out as it might be Robert. We did a quick search around the area, only to find nothing. As I turned to look backward, I noticed Ashley was nowhere to be seen. Amanda said that she thought Ashley was coming just behind us, but she was nowhere around us. Now it's just Amanda and I, and both of us were traumatized. I started to really get scared at this moment. It was only an hour or two before sunrise, and I was praying that all of us could just go home safely. I was still petrified by the screams and disappearance of my friends. I began climbing up the peak to get a good look at the place and hopefully see our friends. Then I noticed something in the middle of the forest at a distance. I couldn't see well, but it was just moving. I couldn't say what it was. Maybe it was a big deer or something like that, but when I focused on it, what I saw still haunts me today. I know nobody believes me when I say it, but it was a strange figure walking towards the light that I saw in a bent posture. It stopped, turned aggressively, and looked just in the direction of where I was standing. It was dark, so I couldn't see its face properly. Then, what I heard next would stick with me for the rest of my life. The same blood-curdling scream as I heard before, but just louder and nearer. I couldn't hold myself in a balance on that high rock and fell on the ground. I thought Amanda might be there to help me, but she was gone as well. I was there on my own. All my friends were gone, and I broke my ankle from the fall. At that moment, I cannot describe the fear I felt. Somehow, I managed to break free from that shock and find my way back to the camping site. I knew Robert had a rifle in his tent. So, I grabbed it. As I got out of the tent, I saw Robert lying on the ground. Just beside him was Ashley, and when I got near them, I saw that their bodies were twisted and turned, bones broken, limbs torn apart, and blood was covering every part of their body. I could still see Robert breathing. I got near his ear and told him that I would save him. As I stood there, I heard the same hissing and cracking sound behind those trees, followed by angry growls. From the darkness, red, glowing pairs of eyes started emerging out of nowhere. It was a pack of wolves. I started to panic when I realized I had been surrounded. I could hear creepy giggles and whispers behind those trees as well, as if someone was mocking me, but the only problem was that I was surrounded and my ankle was broken. The only thing I had in my hands was a rifle which I barely knew how to use. Somehow, I loaded the rifle and pointed it at one of the wolves. As they got closer to me, I could hear snarls all around me. I fired the rifle out of fear and missed. The first wolf jumped on me, snapping its jaws ferociously. I didn't get a chance to let out another shot. More wolves descended upon me, their teeth sinking into my flesh. The wolves tore at my limbs, their teeth breaking through my skin. I could see and feel blood flowing out of my body on the ground. My every desperate attempt to free myself from them made them bite deeper into my flesh. My eyes were almost closed, and I was unconsciously being dragged. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a mysterious figure emerged from the shadows. It seemed like it was the same mysterious figure that I saw moments before when I was standing on a high rock. I heard a loud bang, followed by another, and then another, something like the fire of bullets, and the last thing I remember was a hand that grabbed me from my collar and dragged me somewhere under a tree. I opened my eyes in a hospital after that, where every member of the family was just outside that hospital room, and I couldn't move. I couldn't even speak. My jaw was fractured as well. Doctors allowed my father to talk to me, and he told me the tragic news of my friend's death. Ashley, Amanda, Robert, and Matt were found dead with just their leftover bodies of them. Most of their body parts were eaten by the wolves. I just have a vague memory of that incident. I still don't know who it was that saved me that night from those wolves. Police searched the place after that as well, but there was no trace of that man anywhere, not even any footstep or sign of any other blood besides ours.